Hello, beautiful people. Sorry, I'm just fixing the light. How do we like that? Yes, that seems good. Yes, I've missed you all. Thank you so much for being patient with me while I took a little break after finishing Reclaim Your Crown, just to finish and submit my tax return and just relax for a few days and just be in my own energy and just chill out from having to like work so hard over the last 5 months that it's taken me to create the 10-step course. I am shifting over from Patreon to, which was very good for hosting the membership type structure that I wanted for the course when I was making it, but now I will be selling it as an evergreen product, and I will be shifting over to another platform, and once that's done I will be posting the links on my Instagram and here. So if you've been thinking about joining that program, then keep your eyes peeled. So yeah, now that announcement's out of the way, I've got some patchouli on the go because today we're talking about the masculine, and I find patchouli to be quite a masculine scent. What do you think, guys? Let's get this in position. Quick plug, these gorgeous hoop earrings were sent to me by Tesoro Jewelry. They're an independent brand based here in London. She sent me these and a necklace that I'm not wearing today, but really love them, so I just wanted to give her a little shout out. I'll post the link as well. Okay, so today we're talking about healing your inner masculine. You guys asked me when I posted the last video on some tips on how you can heal your inner masculine, to come into union with yourself, to come into union with God, and to come into union with an external masculine who carries king codes, divine codes, godly codes, Christed codes, you know, a man who has integrity, character, morals, all of those good things. Okay, so let's get straight into it. I've written some notes, so let's do it. Okay, so the first thing that I recommend you do if you're wanting to heal your inner masculine is heal your emotional body. Now, as we go through life, different things happen to us, traumas and such like, that become embedded within our bodies. Not just our physical bodies, but also our emotional and our causal bodies, which is kind of like our energy field that surrounds our physical body, that isn't usually visible to most normal people unless, you know, you have extrasensory perception, because those more subtle energies exist outside of the visible light spectrum. We can only see 1/10 billionth that we know of, you know, everything that's going on in the universe, and that's what we refer to as the visible light spectrum or objective reality. So these kind of traumas become embedded in our emotional body, and they can make us vulnerable to different templates and programs that keep us looping. So, you know, we might have a program that we're a victim, or a story around being a victim, or that, you know, people always take advantage of me. Maybe you have a story around the masculine, that men only want you for your body or for your looks, or men always leave you or abandon you. Whatever your story is, that will usually, you can basically trace that back to a wound. So there are different ways that you can heal your emotional body. One of the best ways that I found recently is Kriyas. That's why I created my 10-step course, Reclaim Your Crown, because it's about balancing your inner polarities, coming into union with yourself, you know, balancing any imbalances that you have in your chakras, and opening up your crown chakra so that you can receive divine light. And that's why it's called Reclaim Your Crown. You become a king or a queen when you balance your masculine and your feminine energies. So that course will be available. I will post the link as soon as it's ready, as I said before. Breath work is another really, really amazing tool for healing your emotional body. I've done loads of workshops doing breath work, and there are some very, very powerful techniques. Wim Hof does a really excellent technique for purging out yeah, just anything that's stuck in your emotional body that is ready to be released, the breath work will just bring it up to the surface to be re-experienced and refelt, and then purged out of your system. So every time I've done, the first few times I did Wim or Marcel Hof's breath technique, I had old stuff that I re-experienced, not like necessarily the actual trauma I experienced, but the emotions around it came up for release, a lot of crying, a lot of purging. And then after that, every time I've done it, I've just felt like really ecstatic and like kind of high almost. So you can find that breath technique. There's probably loads of tutorials on YouTube. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I forgot to clean out my camera before recording. So yeah, you can just go into the quantum field and revisit the original trauma that kept you looping into this trigger, and just revise it and collapse it. You can do this yourself during meditation. It's not that difficult. I've done it many times with myself. Or if you want, you can book a session with me. I can guide you through that process if that's something that you need help with. Second technique for healing your inner masculine. What media are you consuming? Be mindful of the media that you are consuming and how is it affecting your consciousness. So what films are you watching? What music are you listening to? What TV shows are you watching? Even like the news articles that you're watching, are they giving you a certain perspective? Because, not saying that none of these are based in truth, but you know, any perspective is always just a perspective. It's it gives you one side of the story. So, you know, if you're watching TV shows that are showing really negative perceptions of the masculine, that's fine. You know, you can do that because that does exist, and that, you know, there are people who have masculine energy. There are men who hold those lower masculine, more toxic traits. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't consume that, but if that is making you have certain belief systems around the masculine, that this is how they all are, then try and consume media that shows them in a more positive light. Okay, because I'm sorry, but like, I don't believe that like all men are this. And it's because I made a decision to transform those beliefs. And as soon as I transformed those beliefs, I started having different experiences with the masculine. So I know that this works, and it can work for you too. So watch, you know, TV shows that have positive male role models. So one that I've been enjoying recently, I've been connecting a lot to the energy of King Arthur, because my mentor Emily Harris, she's been doing a lot of channelings about she basically is a multi-dimensional clairvoyant. So she can kind of close her eyes, open her third eye, go into the quantum field and see whatever's happening within the 12 dimensions. So she's been talking a lot about the masculine return that's coming in through the fields, in different grids, so different countries. And she's been talking about how the King Arthur energy has been returning massively. I know this as well. I've experienced this because a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months, maybe it was like a month ago now, maybe 6 weeks ago, I had a dream in which King Arthur visited me. He was holding his Excalibur sword, and he was putting the Emerald Melchizedek into the hearts of men. That's what my dream was anyway, or that's how I interpreted it, because obviously dreams are, you know, they're not always quite the same as this reality. And I had a session with her a week later, one-to-one session, and she was like, oh yeah, I can see the King Arthur Emerald Melchizedek in your heart space. And I didn't tell her about this dream, she just said that. And then afterwards, when we'd finished with the session, there were other things that came up, but yeah, she was like, yeah, do you have any insight? How is that for you? And I was just like, yeah, it's really interesting that you said that you saw the Emerald Melchizedek from King Arthur in my heart, because I had a dream about him a week ago, and he was placing the emerald in the hearts of men. And she was just like, yeah, that was in your heart, in your masculine side. So that was kind of crazy. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but just because of that, I started connecting a lot more to the King Arthur energy. So I wanted to watch some films about King Arthur, and I found this amazing show on Netflix called Merlin. Apparently it was a huge show that ran from like 2008 to 2012. I'm really sad that I never kind of jumped on the bandwagon back then, but I was not really watching a lot of TV and films around that time. That was when I kind of just graduated from uni and was modeling and things like that, so I was much more interested in the fashion industry. But yeah, it was a hugely successful show on the BBC that has now recently, I think in the last couple of years, moved over to Netflix. I think it's not available on Netflix in the UK, in the US, but you can use a VPN, and you know, if you're in the UK, you will be able to watch it. And it's really interesting. It's actually been really healing my relationship to the masculine, because the masculine characters, the male characters in that show are, obviously there's some that are not grey. There's obviously the evil ones and whatever, and there's also evil women in that show. But King Arthur, Merlin, and all the Knights of the Round Table embody all of those really incredible Christed energies, those divine masculine energies of, you know, benevolence and courage and compassion and, you know, justice and fairness and mercy and, you know, doing the right thing according to universal laws and, you know, things like that. And also of self-defense, because people think, you know, you don't want to get into like the new age or the new age belief systems that tend to polarize people into kind of right brain wounded feminine energy, which is like that we should be all loving and all compassionate and not have any boundaries and not ever stand up for ourselves, because that's also a distortion. So, you know, again, Kriyas can help you, you know, balance yourself out if you're swinging from one end to the other. So it's very common that when you've been in a wounded masculine place where you've been very defensive and very aggressive and very angry, that you'll go into a wounded feminine where you'll maybe get into new age teachings where it's all love and light and everything is divine and you know, everybody has got that spark of divinity, and that's actually just not 100% true. There are a lot of people on this planet that have cut off their connection to source and are not living by right alignment, and unfortunately are perpetrating a lot of evil. That doesn't mean that, you know, that they weren't created by God, or that God doesn't love them, or God is not capable of forgiving them, because, you know, I fully believe that, you know, a lot of things can be forgiven, but that doesn't make their actions divine. So I just want to kind of add that nuance. So yeah, that's a really good show if you want a good positive examples of, you know, really like beautiful masculine energy. Yeah, so also look at the music that you're listening to, because music, I think, has a really big impact on our consciousness. If you're just listening to maybe like gangster rap, I mean, you should probably be mindful of, you know, the way that record companies have used certain artists to perpetuate misogyny and racism within the mainstream hip hop community. If you like hip hop, listen to some conscious hip hop, maybe, you know, some independent artists who are, you know, expanding your consciousness. I'll actually post some in the description box below, some incredible artists who are doing amazing things with the spoken word and with music, who aren't going to be poisoning your mind, talking about bitches and hoes and shooting and, you know, all of that stuff. Okay, the third way to heal your inner masculine is to connect and talk to your inner masculine. So just connect with your inner feminine and your inner masculine and get them to talk to each other. This is really powerful. So you can do this in meditation, and the more you do it in meditation, and have a journal next to you so you can write notes afterwards, the more you do it in meditation, the more you'll actually start to do it in the quantum field during dreams and things like that. So, you know, I've had quite a few dreams in which my masculine has appeared, and in the beginning I didn't actually know that that was my divine masculine. I thought I was in a relationship at the time, and I saw this guy in my dream who looked nothing like the person I was in a relationship with. Not that there was anything wrong with the person I was in a relationship with, he was amazing as well, but this guy was completely different. The guy I was with was white with long blonde hair, and this guy had short dark hair and was Indian, was very good looking. and these girls were like trying to hit on him because they thought he was really hot, and he was just completely ignoring them, and he was looking for me. And then when he found me, I felt so safe and so loved and so protected, and like he was a part of me and I was a part of him. Like we completed each other. I've never felt that with anyone before. And then when I obviously wrote it in my dream journal. This is another tip that you should do for any kind of healing work, or, you know, just ascension practice, is to keep a dream journal, because the more you do it, the more you'll actually be able to remember your dreams, and the more you'll actually start doing healing work in your dreams, and become better at lucid dreaming and things like that. So I wrote it in my dream journal, and then I was actually talking to my boyfriend about it that day, and I was just like, it's crazy that I had this dream and I don't know who this guy was. And then suddenly I realized that it was my own masculine energy, and that's how he feels. And when you really start to get to know how he feels, then you will start to actually call that in with the men in your life. You will, because you will feel safe with yourself. So when you visualize him, imagine how he looks. So I posted on my Instagram the other day a picture where I'd taken a selfie and I'd run it through FaceApp, and, you know, because I wanted to know how my inner masculine would look, but I actually didn't need to do that. It was just to illustrate to you guys how you can do it, because like I'd posted 2 days before that as well that I'd done a portrait shoot with a photographer who I know from Bali, who I'm friends with. Very good photographer. We'd shot together a bunch of times before. He wanted to do a wet plate portrait, so I think it's like a Victorian style of photography, or like it's some kind of antique style of photography. It's like a tin plate that you wet, and it's got a film, and then you expose it to the light, and it basically, it's amazing the way that it works, because it's almost like, and I'd seen the way that he'd shot other people as well, it captures so much of your inner essence, and not just like how you look like digital photography does. It's so multi-layered. And we took the portrait, and when the first one that came out, or the first two that came out actually, I looked like a man. Like I looked like an actual man. I had my hair like this, parted like this, with the fringe like that and like that. I looked like a Native American warrior, like some kind of like Navajo warrior. And I waited a long time before posting it on my Instagram, because obviously it wasn't the most flattering photo of me. And it's not run for a FaceApp, it's actually just me. But it was crazy, because it was that day that I had realized that my masculine energy, I'd been doing so much work on my feminine embodiment, that I'd realized that there were all these aspects of my masculine energy that still needed to be integrated, like structure, like provision, you know, and all these other, you know, different qualities that I still needed to pull into my essence. And that was the day I was thinking about this as I was driving to Stefan's house. We took the portrait and it came out like that, and I was just like, yeah, that's my inner masculine. He's making himself shown, he's making himself known. So yeah, start talking to him, start asking him what he wants, start asking him how he feels, what's his motivation, because a lot of you ladies who may have had woundings around the masculine may find that your masculine will step forward when you're in a relationship with a man, because if you don't feel safe around the masculine, your masculine will fight to keep you safe, and he will go to war with any man that tries to reach you. So that can cause problems in your relationships. So the more you, and not saying that you should trust every man, because definitely you shouldn't, but the thing is, you will continue to go after what feels familiar to you and what is in keeping with your beliefs around the masculine. So if you think that the masculine is always going to cheat on you, then you will settle for a man that will cheat on you, because you don't believe that you can do better than that. You don't believe that something better even exists. So as you start to transform your beliefs about that, because you feel safe with your inner masculine, he can sit back, you know, he can just sit back. Instead of being on the outside and being this wall, he becomes the central channel, that he's the architecture that holds up your queen. And then your queen becomes more powerful, because when he starts protecting you and forming this armor around you, your queen, well, she's not a queen, like she just becomes this like damsel in distress that needs protecting from the masculine outside because she's weak and she can't stand up for herself and she doesn't have the discernment to choose better for herself. So when you actually have this conversation with your masculine and you say, listen, like, I actually, you know, I know that you've been trying to protect me. You really start to fall in love with your own inner masculine. You start to fall in love with those qualities in the men around you, and even the men who are carrying the lower masculine codes. When you really start to step into your queen, you actually start to have compassion for them, because you see the wounded inner boy that they are actually, that they're acting out that energy. You know, the boy that maybe got rejected by the prettiest girl in school, and that's why he constantly wants to just fuck every girl and then dump her. Doesn't mean you deal with him, you don't, because you're now more discerning, but you can have compassion for that instead of having a charge around that, because when you have a charge around that, that's what we experience as chemistry. Chemistry, when you have a really strong chemistry with somebody, it's because you both have some kind of wound that you need to figure out. So you become like magnets, attracted to each other, like very strongly, because you're both internally polarized. Your masculine is wounded and your feminine is wounded, and same with theirs. You're both like acting out of your inner child energy, so you're coming together to heal those children, and it can be very painful. So that's another way that you can actually heal it, by going through toxic relationships and coming out of them with all your battle scars and learning lessons. That's a much longer way to do it. If you're not going to do the work to actually heal yourself, and you're continually going to keep on getting in relationships with men who are just as wounded as you are, you know, that can take, it can take many more years to actually heal it. Or, you know, if you're going to be proactive, then try these techniques that I've suggested. As always, if you want any help or guidance, any personal support with this, you can book a session with me, send me a DM on Instagram, and I would love to help you. Keep an eye out, make sure you're following me on Instagram, and turn on your notifications so that you get notified when I have shifted the course over to a new platform. It will probably be next week. So yeah, if you want to join Reclaim Your Crown to heal your inner polarities, then do that. I would love to have you on board with that course. And yeah, leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to suggest any video topics, then feel free to do that in the comments, or you can also send me a DM and suggest something. If it's something that you don't want to talk about publicly, that's fine. I'm happy to do a video around it. As always, I will love you and leave you, soul fam. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out. One love.
You're introduced to LSD, and unless you've taken some other drug, like for instance, like marijuana or something, well, you know, it's an altogether new thing.